Game starts with a man named Ghale traveling through Kyrat carrying the cremated remains of Ajay Ghale. He is guided by Darpan. Soon the bus is stopped by soldiers and they try to search the vehicle. Two men run through the back door and a shootout begins. Ghale gets captured and soon a guy named Pagan Min arrives with a chopper. He is pissed that soldiers fired guns instead of just stopping the bus. He rages at their commander and stabs him to death. But when he spots Ghale, he greets him with a hug. Then he takes a selfie with Ghale and his men put a sack on his head. Next thing we see is Ghale sitting at a dining table with Pagan, who apologizes for what happened earlier. There's also Paul at the table, who Pagan introduces as host. Pagan is a bit surprised that Ghale doesn't remember him and asks if his mother ever mentioned him. Then he shows Ghale some cash with his face on every one of them and tastes the remains of Ajay Ghale. According to what Pagan says, Ajay left the country with her little boy and he blames a terrorist organization called the Golden Path for that. Pagan finds out that Darpan was trying to text for help under the table. He takes him for interrogation. Ajay Ghale waits and hears some screams, but when Pagan gets back, he takes him on a helicopter and they fly to a place where he tells Ajay a bit about his father Mohan, who drove his mother away and killed his sister Lakshmana. Pagan shows Ajay Lakshmana's grave and allows him to put his mother's ashes next to her. When Ajay gets back outside, they get back in a helicopter and that's how the game ends. No, really, this is an alternative secret ending when Ajay actually waits patiently for a few minutes for Pagan to get back as he asked. But if he starts exploring the mansion, things go a bit different. So Ajay finds a basement where his nameless friend is tortured and soon he gets approached by Golden Path members led to Sabal. He says he knew his father Mohan and they come to rescue him. Soon an alarm is triggered and Ajay runs under gunfire until he reaches the jeep and storms the front gate. Ajay gets a gun and helps to defend the vehicle from Pagan's soldiers who chase them. At one point they are pushed from the road by another car. Ajay survives the crash, but the driver is dead. He stays on the phone with Sabal, who orders to head for the nearby tower. Ajay manages to sneak past soldiers looking for him. At one point, Pagan calls him just to inform he was disappointed that he left the dinner and executed the chef and his family because of that. Ajay reaches Sabal and the bell tower and he explains that his father was an important figure in Kyrat, especially for the Golden Path. But no time to explain more since Pagan soldiers approach the tower. Golden Path manages to defend it until Avalanche comes down and covers everything. Ghale makes it out alive. Sabal takes him to their village and they meet Amita, but she's not impressed with the son of Mohan. Ajay mentions he only looks Lakshmana and Sabal figures it might be a temple, but those are located on enemy territory. Soon turns out one of Sabal's men who was sent to take over the transmitters on the bell tower failed, so Ajay volunteers to do it. When he succeeds, a guy named Gopal connects and asks him for help in delivering some supplies for him. Then he talks to Amita again, and she is a bit nicer than before. She tells Ajay to help farmers with wild animals. By doing that, he earns more respect from Amita. Sabal sends Ajay to a guy named Longinus. He is a priest and a gun dealer at the same time, spending his days wondering what gun would Jesus choose. Ajay has a fun chit-chat with him but is interrupted by Sabal reporting that Banapur is under attack. Ajay quickly goes there and helps to defend the village. He also saves a girl named Badra from a burning building. Amita tells Sabal that the attack was a revenge for kidnapping Ajay from Pagan. Pagan's men also took a nearby outpost and some hostages. Sabal asks Ajay to rescue them. So he sneaks inside the camp and does the job. Sabal tells him that his father, who by the way created the Golden Path, would be proud. Ajay is still like, dude, I didn't came here to save the nation, I just wanted to hitchhike and post stories on Instagram. Amita explains that since Ajay rescued the hostages now, she needs to use her men to protect them instead of taking back the outpost. Ajay says it's okay, I will take back the outpost. Amita tells him that if he wants to commit a suicide, there are better ways to do that, but Ajay doesn't listen and actually takes the outpost back like it was a jacket in a cloakroom. Now Amita looks at Ajay like she wanna hold hands and shit, but at least she is more interested in helping Ajay to reach Lakshmana and bury those damn ashes. But she also says that Ishvari probably knew that when Ajay comes to Kyrat, he will deal with all this son of Mohan shit. She tells Ajay that if he stays and joins the Golden Path, she will help him fulfill his mother's dying wish. Whether it was to spread her ashes or maybe liberating the nation, who knows? And those guys clearly need a leader since Amita and Sabal spent half of their time arguing. So, Ajay has a choice. He can take Amita's or Sabal's side. Sabal is more about saving lives and tradition, religion, all that stuff. I would even call him a fundamentalist. Amita cares only about winning the war at any cost. And those are the small choices that don't affect the storyline. But depending on which side Ajay chooses in a particular mission might affect his mission objectives, depending on Sabal's and Amita's priorities. But all in all, those are small details in a bigger picture, and there are 5 decisive missions in the game that, depending on what side is taken, affect on a different ending. Then Ajay meets Sherpa and they go to the Himalayan mountains because a chopper crashed there and Longinus asks to recover some stuff from the crash site. Bad news, Pagan's boys are also after the package. Good news, Ajay gets to ride a jet ski. It turns out that what Ajay thought would be some serious weapons shipment is just a lunchbox. What's in the box? Huge-ass diamonds. Longinus says the Golden Path doesn't need to worry about weapons deliveries, but Lepol is preparing a large shipment of opium at the local old tea factory. Sabal wants to burn the opium fields as he doesn't want to Kyrat become a drug state. Amita, however, asks Ajay to eliminate the military forces guarding the factory so that Golden Path can use the profits to finance the revolution. Drug money can pay for many vehicles, weapons, and fight against Pagan Min. She also explains that since they have no natural resources, they will need the money to rise the economy after the war is over. That makes sense. But again, it's up to Ajay what he chooses. Later, Ajay goes to a funeral and talks to Badra, who tells him his father was murdered. Ajay wants to know more and Badra tells him to visit his house. When Ajay reaches the place, turns out someone is there. It's Reggie and Yogi. And clearly, they are baked as hell. They recognize Ajay as the son of Mohan. They seem friendly, but soon they inject Ajay with some substance that puts him into sleep. He wakes up hearing some woman speaking to a cheering crowd. Next thing he knows, topless babes drag him in front of the crowd and the woman introduces him as son of the terrorists. It all looks like a ritual execution, but the woman gives Ajay a tip about the hidden blade before she throws him down. At the arena, Ajay is hunted by armed soldiers, but he actually manages to survive. Then he gets himself a machine gun and stays alive long enough to impress the crowd. The woman's name is Noore. She explains Paul has her family as hostages, so she has to obey Pagan, but since Golden Path wants Paul dead, they can help each other. She also asks him to take it easy on Reggie and Yogi since they are also being played by Pagan. Then she shows him a way to escape through caves. After Ajay makes his way to the cave and finds the Tankka, as he holds it, he starts to hallucinate and lose consciousness. He then wakes up as Kalinak at the top of the mountain. He jumps down the mountain and makes a dive inside the ice. Kalinak is like an ancient warrior, and he swims up, explaining how he was given the quest and that he had to find the paradise on earth. He then emerges from the red-colored water and starts walking. He encounters a wounded tiger with a blade in his back. He pulls the blade out and the tiger disappears. And then he notices the remains of a battle and encounters demons that invaded Shangri-La and are destroying it. And when one of the demons jumps at him and is about to kill Kalinak, the Sky Tiger comes back and kills that demon. Cute story. He makes his way to Kyrat's statue and finds the mythical bell. Just as he breaks it loose, 2 demons appear but vanish after the bell sounds its first ring. Ajay wakes up and Reggie and Yogi explain he walked into a house of his father holding a tanga and put it in the frame. Amita is happy that Ajay secured the opium field, that the Pole has been targeting monuments of religious significance in the lowlands, and his next targets are the giant statues of Kyrat, known as the Sleeping Saints. Ajay has to defend them. Turns out, one of the statues is already blown up by Royal Army when he arrives. He has only 5 minutes before the second one explodes. but he manages to back off the royal army. And Amita asks him to block the way to the statues because, quote, Sabo is going to waste fighters protecting it. And after Ajay accomplishes this, Noore calls and she wants to meet. She is angry and tells that Paul must be killed immediately since he's going home. She promises to help with overthrowing Pagan if he kills Paul and protects her family. She reveals that he is having a going-away party at his compound. She tells Ajay about the meat shipment that can be his way in. Ajay manages to sneak into the truck with supplies. It gets him to a place called City of Pain, where he takes some photographs of their interrogation room and then heads to Paul's office without being detected. When Ajay reaches Paul's office, he frees a slave and puts his bag on to deceive Paul. Paul walks in and he is on the phone with his wife and daughter while looting the body of a dead Golden Path member. When he finishes the call, he takes off the bag from Ajay's head and gets knocked down. Ajay carries Paul to a nearby car and escapes with him. On the way, Paul reveals that Noore's family was killed a long time ago and he actually was the one who was writing letters that they are giving her as a proof of life of her daughter. Ajay gives Paul to the Golden Path and they take care of him. Later, Amita confesses it's not easy for her to be the first woman in Golden Path and a voice of reason in opposition to Sabal's idealistic view of life. Then she tells Ajay about the brick factory that serves as a processing station for the opium that came from the tea plantations. Sabal wants to destroy it, but Amita wants to take it over. Depending on Ajay's choice, he would rather have to secure the factory by killing the guards or plant the bombs and blow it up. When Ajay returns from that mission, Amita and Sabal are arguing about their visions. They tell Ajay to go to the Sanatach arena and kill Noore. Ajay tried to explain that she was only trying to protect her family, but killing her is the one thing both Amita and Sabal agree on. Ajay leaves, telling them he will decide what to do with her. Noore actually was a doctor who came to Kyrat on an aid mission early in the times of Pagan's regime. She wrote a report on human rights. Pagan got mad and he decided to invite her back to show her the improvements and told her to bring her family along. When she came back, Pagan took her family as hostages and forced her to run parts of his empire. When Ajay reaches her place, she actually is giving one of her propaganda speeches. Since the crowd blocks the entrance he plans to use, he must do some crawling to find an alternative. That way he reaches the arena control center and releases some wild animals to create a chaos element. And those cats handle royal army members quite smoothly. Then he goes after Noore. Once he reaches her, he chooses to spare her life, but she asks about her family and Ajay reveals that they are dead. She gets hopeless and cuts her arm, bleeding at the arena while the crowd is cheering, and then she throws herself down and gets eaten by animals. While Ajay is getting back from the arena, a guy named Willis makes contact. He explains that he needs the Kyrat airport clear of snipers before he lands his plane and makes a deal with the royal army. Ajay agrees to help and kills all those snipers. Then he gets on a control tower and watches Willis landing. The royal army decides to double-cross Willis, preparing to take him into Yuma. Ajay starts firing at the enemy soldiers while Willis hides away. Reinforcements soon arrive and Willis runs into the warehouse for cover as Aegis finishes them off. And you remember good old Willis, right? A CIA operative who was helping Jason Brody on the Rook Islands in Far Cry 3. He tells Ajay that everything that he needs to know about his father is on a plane that is just taking off. Ajay jumps on a quad and chases the plane, performing nice action jump and then with stealing the suitcase and blowing up the plane. Later it turns out the files on the plane are not containing any information about Ajay's father, but Willis connects and tells Ajay to help him with bringing down Pagan Min and Yuma, as this is his CIA mission here. He reveals that he recruited Mohan back in the day while he was still working for Pagan. Then he flies him to Yuma, explaining how Pagan's half-sister and a second-in-command is the one that all paths lead to. She came to Kyrat from Hong Kong and is connected to triads. Then Willis tells Ajay to kill few of the Yuma's lieutenants. In exchange, he shares some intel about his parents. Turns out that Ajay's mother, Ishwari, was sent by Mohan to spy on Pagan, but they actually fell in love with each other. When Mohan threatened Ishwari's life because she wanted to leave everything, she killed Mohan instead. After killing the lieutenants, Ajay gets on a plane and Willis tells him that the Yuma's lieutenants he's been killing are actually undercover CIA agents that were killed in order to hide the involvement of CIA in Kyrat. CIA doesn't consider Kyrat a threat to USA anymore, so they are ending their operation in that region. And with that, he grabs him, opens the door, and says that every patriot he knew was a son of a bitch, and throws Ajay out of the plane, leaving him hurt in the snow. Then one of the Yuma guards knocks him and carries him to the Durgesh prison. When Ajay wakes up, he hears the voice of Pagan. His sister, half-sister, is also there. He has Ajay locked on a cliff, and after Pagan leaves, guard puts him into sleep with a drug that gives him a weird vision of Yuma low. Ajay is climbing rocks, trying to find a way out, while being chased by demonic visions. Yuma's voice he hears in his head mentions about Pagan being in love with Ishvari. Eventually, he finds a hook and a rope and uses it to swing down, but he falls down the rocks and lands in the middle of the prison, and his only chance is to sneak out, avoid being spotted by the guards. He manages to escape but walks into a snow and briefly sees a creature similar to Yeti on the horizon before passing out. But lucky for Ajay, he was found by the Golden Path members before he frozen to death. Not much time to recover though, since Amita sends him to hijack a fuel truck and destroy the iron door blocking the path to northern Kyrat. Before Ajay reaches the place, Sabal calls and gives him an alternative plan to complete the task, but the mission does not affect the plot since both Amita and Sabal are on the same page about opening a passage. Ajay reaches the town of Utkarsh to speak with the local Golden Path members. Once there, civilians let him to a basement and show him their weapons, telling they are ready to fight. While Ajay is downstairs, Pagan Min enters the house and speaks with the other two civilians, and he totally performs a Hans-Landa shit from Inglourious Bastards. Scene ends with Pagan ordering to kill the civilians. Ajay decides to leave the basement and go after him, as this might be a great chance to kill Pagan. He flees outside, and after gunning down a couple soldiers, he flies a buzzer to pursue Pagan Min. He actually catches him and manages to kill him. But few seconds later, he gets a call from the real Pagan, who tells him that it was just his stunt double Eric, who now is dead and it's gonna be hard to find a replacement. Then Pagan broadcasts a speech informing citizens he is alive. He also informs that Noore and Paul decided to move on and leave the organization, and reveals his half-sister Yuma's location, actually challenging anyone who wants to kill her. Golden Path decides to take that challenge, and Ajay goes to the Svargiya mine. After reaching the mine and exploring inside, he reaches a table with a note on it. After reading the note, Yuma appears and drags Ajay, making him hallucinate again. In the visions, Ajay confronts his fears. He sees Sabal accusing him of siding with Amita and executing some prisoners, and Yuma tells a lot of how Ajay's mother made Pagan weak. Ajay reaches a stone temple and confronts Kalinak. He chases him trying to kill the warrior, and that leads him to a place where Yuma appears and tries to seduce Ajay, and that leads to them dueling on an arena, but instead of Yuma, Ajay fights Kalinak. The fight leads to a point where Ajay begins to stop Kalinak until he wakes up from his hallucination and discovers that Kalinak was actually Yuma, lying dead on the ground. Ajay meets with Bhadra, the girl he saved earlier from the fire, and she is considered a living incarnation of goddess Kyrat. So basically Sabal and his people are worshipping her. She tells Ajay that whoever secures the Yolanda temple will rule the Golden Path. Amita wants to destroy the temple and secure the valuable artifacts within to found the rebellion, while Sabal wants to secure the place and crown Bhadra as the Tarun Matara. Depending on Ajay's choice, whether to destroy or prevent a sacred place, he will give his vote of support to the future leader of the Golden Path, and this will affect on the ending of the game. And a tension between two Golden Path leaders rises to the point where Ajay must kill the one that is in the opposition to the path he chose on previous missions. In the end, when he catches the leader, he can actually decide to kill or let them go. If Ajay is about to kill Amita, he gets coordinates to find her. She is surprised that Sabal sent Ajay to kill her and how he follows all the orders. After mocking Ajay that he is the son of Mohan Ghale and should be a soul saver of Kyrat, Amita tells him to follow his orders and pull the trigger. If Ajay decides to spare Amita, she picks up the folder and walks away in anger, telling Ajay that while he is sparing her, he is killing Kyrat. If Sabal is the one to be killed, he is inside the shack lighting some candles and likely praying. He feels betrayed by Ajay, handing over Kyrat to Amita, and even goes to the point to ask him if this is a type of country that Ishvari wanted her ashes to be scattered in. And if Ajay decides to spare Sabal, he picks up a kukri on the floor but quickly drops it before walking away and telling Ajay that he is gone. Back in the rebel base, everyone is prepared for the final attack on Pagan. Ajay, along with the others, attack his fortress and push back the remnants of the royal army. They blow up the main gate and break inside. Pagan's soldiers fight bravely, and he sends everything he has to prevent Golden Path from taking over the palace, but rebels led by Ajay manage to win the battle with a symbolic act, destroying his golden statue. Pagan connects through the radio and asks Ajay for dinner. Ajay enters and the table is blending under food. Pagan is still cool as a breeze on summer night. He asks if Ajay is still a guy who came to scatter his mother's ashes or a lunatic who murdered his way to the top. Well, that's actually a good question. Then he reminds his first meeting and pity that Ajay didn't wait for him as he asked. Then he asks Ajay to sit down and dine with him and promises that later they will go scatter his mother's ashes. Ajay points a gun at him and... Okay, two ways to end this. Ajay can just shoot Pagan, he dies, end of the game, ending cutscene. But if he decides to spare him, Pagan leads Ajay to a small building behind the palace. This is where the remains of Lakshmana Mir are hidden. She is Ajay's half-sister and Pagan and Ishvari's daughter. Pagan explains that when Ishvari was sent to spy on him, they fell in love. Feeling betrayed, Mohan killed Lakshmana, and then Ishvari killed Mohan in return before escaping Kyrat. After the death of his daughter, Pagan entered the shrine only once. He tells he was a sane man, but he came out like this. Ajay leaves his mother's ashes inside and exits to see Pagan on his helicopter, saying that Kyrat is Ajay's, but he is taking the chopper. Pagan flies away. Afterwards, Ajay returns to the Ghale homestead to speak with the surviving Golden Path leader. So, if Ajay chooses Sabal, he meets him at the Alendu temple. There he is slitting the throats of Amita's supporters right in front of Bhadra, who is barely visible, wearing the robes of a Tarun Matara. Ajay protests, pointing to Bhadra, but Sabal justifies his action by saying sins against the gods only can be cleaned by blood. And if Ajay chooses Amita as the leader, he meets her in Tirtha, taking children from their parents to build up an army and manage the opium fields. She claims to be sacrificing liberties now for peace later. When Ajay asks what Bhadra thinks of all this, Amita says she has sent her away. When Ajay asks where, Amita says that it doesn't matter as she cannot come back. So in best case she was sent into an exile, worst case she was killed. Ajay still has a choice to take a gun and kill the leader and his followers. And even if Ajay has spared the other leader's life before the final confrontation with Pagan Min, at this point he can still hunt them out in Kyrat and kill them if he wants to. And that's how the game ends.